Well, for more on the latest developments in Madagascar, we're joined now on the line from London by Dr. Alex Vines, who is Africa Director at the European Council on Foreign Relations. First of all, Dr. Vines, thank you so much for your time. Very welcome you are to the programme. Perhaps I could start by asking, you know, the army then, they've seized power, announced that Andry Rajoelina has left the country. They say they will announce a government very soon, and they're promising elections within 2 years. Do we think that this is all going to go to plan?
That's a good question. Look, this is the Putschist playbook. You say you've taken over. You then say you've got a transition period for 2 years, pending then elections. And then the danger, of course, is that the can gets kicked down the road, that there are further delays. That's certainly the pattern that we see in coups that have happened over the last few years in West Africa. What is now going to happen is obviously Madagascar will be suspended. It won't attend summits of the African Union, and the continental body, the African Union, is having an emergency consultation today about how to handle this coup, and will be bolstering its own office in Tananarivo, the capital of Madagascar, and working out how to encourage a transition, how to hold the military, the colonel and his compatriots to account for a transition back to constitutional rule. So that's what the pressure is going to be, the focus is going to be on now.
Would help us in determining how likely it is to go to plan if we could find out a bit more about the man who's taken power. This is the CAPSAT, that's that special unit of the army which helped the Gen Z protesters towards the end. The Colonel Michael Randrianirina. What do we know about him? What do you know about him?
Well, as you say, he's a colonel in CAPSAT, which is the elite unit in Madagascar. It is respected. I mean, as a more disciplined unit within Madagascar itself. And it was interesting that what was a civil society stroke, as you've mentioned, Generation Z, spearheaded uprising against the former president. It's the military that has secured the departure of the president and has now claimed power. We'll have to see what follows now. This idea that a prime minister and a government is going to be appointed. The colonel himself says he's going to need to make an oath to be sworn in as head of state of Madagascar by the High Constitutional Court. So I imagine that will happen in the next 48 hours. But there is a lot of uncertainty at the moment. What we know about Madagascar is that it has a history of coups. This is the third one. And the trend tends to happen that once you've had a coup, you have another coup. And so this looks like its history repeating itself. Your viewers may, some of them, be aware that obviously the dethroned president of Madagascar, who has now fled, was also initially put into power through a coup. So unfortunately, there is a cyclical pattern in Malagasy history here.
Now, before we take a look at some of the more root causes of this uprising, which led to this power grab, on the specific issues of the power outages, of the water cuts, those very specific early demands until this protest evolved into something much bigger, how easy will it be for those to be fixed?
Well, these are the bread and butter issues that youth and others came out onto the streets to demonstrate. They were fed up with a venal elite that wasn't delivering. And so this has finally resulted in a coup here. In places with stronger democracies, you've seen over the last few months incumbents being thrown out of power. So in the Indian Ocean, just a bit north, the Seychelles, the incumbent party and president has been removed there by elections. In southern Africa, not so far away, Malawi, the incumbent was removed by elections. In Madagascar, you had bad elections a couple of years ago, very contested. And so I think this led to the frustration by particularly urban youth to demonstrate. and then the military has got involved here, and this has resulted in an unconstitutional change of government.
And what are the sort of root causes of this endemic sort of poverty in Madagascar? It is one of the world's poorest countries and one of the world's most corrupt countries.
Well, there you go. You've just said it. That's the problem. It is one of the poorest. It is one of the few countries in the world that has been clearly demonstrated already, also badly impacted by climate change, and that poverty in the south of the country has been exacerbated by climate change. The UN has confirmed that, and it has endemic corruption. And so what Malagasys clearly want is better accountability, better transparency, and economic growth. And so what we've been seeing in recent years is even further inequality growing in the island. And so I'm not surprised that this coup has occurred. Whether the military has the solutions to a multi-layered, really complicated financial and demographic and climate crisis, I have my doubts. So the sooner that an inclusive government is put into place, maybe a transitional mechanism pending elections in a couple of years, the better, because it's pretty clear to me that the military do not have the answers that the Malagasy population need for all the challenges that they're facing currently.
Now, of course, France is the former colonial power in Madagascar, and there are reports that Andry Rajoelina was transported out of the country on a French military plane. Can you tell us a bit more about the role of France in Madagascar? And also, is this an area where we're likely to see outside countries fomenting unrest, competing with each other? I'm thinking of Russia, China. What is the situation in terms of outside countries taking an interest in Madagascar?
Well, lots of countries have an interest in Madagascar, and growing interest. France remains deeply involved and engaged in Madagascar. Actually, the African continent itself, much less. The African Union has a small office there. SADC it's part of the Southern African Development Community, but actually very few African countries have embassies in Antananarivo. So I think we'll have to see what happens. This is clearly a organic uprising from frustration of Malagasy. It's not been orchestrated. There's not evidence that, for example, Russian mischief or other countries' mischief has been kind of amplifying the demonstrations. There has been evidence of that previously. Certainly in 2019, 2020, there was evidence of Russian experimentation on disinformation around elections then, around the 2018 elections in particular. But there is concern. I mean, Madagascar is important for a number of reasons, particularly also for it's critical for it's important for climate change and biodiversity, and so there are going to be increasing attention now on Madagascar on how to encourage what in the short term will be a military junta in control, the colonel and his associates to dictate a pathway back to constitutional rule as quickly as possible.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, Dr. Vine. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Alex Vine there of the European Council on Foreign Relations, the Africa Director at the European Council of Foreign Relations, speaking to us there from London. Well, we're going to stay